Hello, Kelly here with Kelly's Stroke of Life, and welcome to the full moon in Scorpio. We had our full moon yesterday, and it brought this very intense energy. With the full moon. The full moon is always an intense energy because it's the brightest part of the moon cycle. And Scorpio is a very intense energy in itself. It's very intuitive, very emotional. It is fiercely loyal. It is a really good time to pay for the full moon because you have that guiding light of the full moon, and you have this kind of support to do that shadow work, to look underneath the surface, to find out what's really there. And Scorpios, I think, get a bad rap because people say that they're all about sex. And that might be true. But in my experience, it's really not, it's a very one-sided way of looking at Scorpio. And because they do have tend to have very close relationships, and very deep relationships, and loyal to their group or loyal to their workplace, or things that, but they want to see what's underneath. They don't, there's not a lot of patience for the things that are on the surface. And this again is just kind of the characteristics of that sign. So if you know somebody or are a Scorpio, I'm not trying to say that this is you. These are these characteristics, and you might see yourself in some of them, and you might not see yourself in some of them. And that has a lot to do with what's in the rest of your chart. But for working with the moons, I like to use that energy and kind of take that Scorpio energy and what it means, and work with it with the full moon, and kind of blend those two together. So that is, looking at that Scorpio energy. It can be very mystical. It can be very, you can feel like this kind of mysticism and spirituality, and kind of deep pondering, and kind of going underneath, and that pause. And so it's a good time to do that. It's a good time to pause, to reflect, to use that Scorpio energy mixed with that Taurus energy from the new moon, where you feel very comfortable. You feel very comfortable in where you are. You're grounded, and you now can really explore some of the emotions and things that are running under the surface. That might be a good time to do that if you're ready. And the crystals that I picked to go on my altar for the full moon in Scorpio are help with that, and help with that, going inside with intuition, with emotion, and keeping you grounded and keeping you safe as you do this kind of inner work, and as you kind of do this mystical spiritual work. And so the first thing is garnet. And now, if you've seen gemstones, like gemstone quality garnets in like a jewelry store, or a gem show, and just like any other gemstone quality crystal, that it's usually really expensive. And so, but you can work with that energy, and with the energy of garnet. And I found this out when I started studying crystals and using crystals more, is that there's lots of forms of most every crystal, so that you can find different ones that you want to work with, if you want to work with that energy, if you're called to that energy. And so you can really bring that in. And so garnet is one of those that you can find it, and it can be very expensive, but you can also work with it in unfinished rough forms like this. And this has, it's not exactly the same energy, of course, because different crystals, all crystals have different energies and different properties. But you can work with the energy of garnet in a stone like this. And it's rough, it's unpolished, but it's still a stone that I love to work with. And it's very grounding, and it has that very um very loving, intense feeling that goes along with Scorpio. So garnet is the first stone, and that this is a piece of garnet that I have, and I also have just a small sphere of garnet, and this is there's a special name for this one, and I don't remember what it is. I think it's Sespertine garnet, but it's kind of it's got the little like you can see the little shiny spots in it. And but I have this one, and this one was a little bit more pricey, but definitely not as pricey as a finished garnet stone. But this was one that I really just felt called to work with, and it's just it's just a gorgeous stone, and I do love garnet, and it's very grounding, but it's very loving, and it's very safe at the same time, which I feel like that is a good to go along with the Taurus new moon and the Scorpio full moon. So that is garnet. So if you're really called to that, start looking around at different ways that you can use garnet um, as in the energy, and it not have to be pricey. And you can also find pictures, on the internet. You can find, buy an oracle deck that has different gemstones, or I think there are a couple of tarot decks, and I'll probably show them towards the end, maybe one of these videos, and show you some of the decks that go along with that you can use that have crystals in them. But anyway, the garnet is the first one. The second one is jet, and this is a little piece of jet, and it's really hard to tell because it's just, black crystal. And so it looks like a lot of other black crystals. But if you hold jet, you can feel that it's different. It's very light. It feels like kind of like amber. And that's because it is not actually a crystal stone from the earth. It is actually fossilized wood. And so it has that very light feeling. But at the same time, it's very grounding because it is made of wood, and that's rooted. It's got like that root chakra attachment and feeling. And it is something, it's very, very old. It's been used for, centuries in different ways, in different cultures, in different mystical ways, and in different practical ways. And so this is just a really good one for the Scorpio to keep you grounded, but to also look in, also to look at what's underneath, to look at those roots of the tree, what's growing underneath that, all the things that are growing. So what's there that can give you growth? What's there underneath the surface? What are those emotions that are helping you grow? And what are the things that we don't show other people? Scorpio is really an energy of things that we keep inside, things that we don't want to show other people, which I think, is perfectly fine. I don't think that you have to reveal everything about yourself, and there might be some people that you want to share things with, and some people that you don't want to share things with, and there may be some things that you want to keep to yourself, and there might be some things that you just are just yours, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to share those things. But if you want to work with those energies, and if it's something that is holding you back from being the person that you want to be, or getting some of the things that you want to get in your life, then that's the time that you can use the Scorpio energy to really work with that energy, and work with those things that are holding you back, and process them, and maybe release them or integrate them in a different way. So Scorpio is really good for that, and jet is a really good one for that. Now this is the last one, and this is black moonstone. And this is one that I keep. I have this one, and I have a rainbow moonstone, these two palm stones, and I keep them both on my altar. They stay there permanently. And so they stay, and I put some herbs in the middle. So they stay on each side of the herb. But the black moonstone is one that's always there. And so I thought that this was a good one, though, But if you want to have work with a stone for Scorpio energy for the full moon in Scorpio specifically, then I think Black Moonstone is a really good one for it because it is one of those that has that can seem very dull, but then when you polish it, it's just gorgeous and it has this, beautiful, dark gray, black background, but it's very, it's got these like shiny pieces and parts to it. It's just very multi-dimensional. And I think that is very because normally I would say Black Moonstone you would want to use with the new moon because it's dark and that's what it symbolizes on my altar. But for this one, I'm bringing it in as the full moon, as a full moon stone, because we have this full moon in Scorpio. And I think the Black Moonstone, because of its, just that energy that it has of this, duality. And so we have this duality here of this, bright, shining full moon, but this kind of more introspective, very watery sign of Scorpio. And so those are the three that I'm using. So I'm using Garnet, Jet, and Black Moonstone for the three crystals that are on my full moon altar. And so I changed my altar, my little mini moon altar. So I change it with a card, an oracle card that represents the moon, and then an oracle card that represents the sign that the moon is in. And so I do that at the new moon, and I'll have those two cards, and then I change it out just like I did with the full moon, and I keep it up until the next new moon. And I go and when it's like a couple of days before the next new moon, so the next new moon is going to be in Gemini. So when I start looking in that one, so I'll just start kind of looking and seeing what things call to me as Gemini energy and the new moon, and what do those things kind of mean together to me. And I'll take some notes and look at, maybe look at, do some research on some crystals, look at the crystals that I have, look at crystals that I've worked with before, look at any notes that I have. And so then that's how I'll kind of decide what I want to use. And sometimes it's just very intuitive. I just kind of go around and pick some and see that they work. But I try to do a little bit of research in them so that I do know, what the crystals are and what they mean. And I always discover something new. And that's what is the great thing is when you do the research and you kind of look up about the crystals, then you find out, new things. You might find a new form of that crystal, or, a new way that it's been used, or a new way that you can use it, or, something about it that you didn't know before. So that's it for today. That is our full moon in Scorpio and the crystals for that. And I don't have this one written down, so I'll put this in the description. But I'll also, and it's not in this book, in this PDF, because I wasn't quite sure what I was going to use at the time that I did this. And so but you can, and I have left journaling pages here that you can write down anything that you want to take notes on. So if you want to print this out and use it, you can. But I'll have these, the crystals that I've used as well on this altar in the description. So that's it for today. I'll be back again, and we're going to do a couple of more classes. So we're going to do one on crystals and the herbs, crystals through the zodiac, and then just kind of general crystals and magic and how you can, small ways that you can use crystals. So those are the things that I want to cover that I have in the PDF. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at those, and you can do that and download the PDF and look at those, and I will be back later on, maybe tomorrow, and hopefully in the next couple of days. And then we'll finish up this new moon cycle in Taurus, and then get ready and to move on to the next new moon and have something different to work on for that. So again, full moon energy, take some time, be good to yourself, let those emotions go, and take some time, pause, maybe grab one of your favorite crystals for this time of year and hold it and do some meditation, and just thank the full moon and thank the moon for its crystals and for its guidance, and to for the time, the place that you're in, and just be present. And I will see you again later. Bye.